Hey there, welcome back to the Clarity to CEO podcast, where we help women step fully into the role of CEO with clarity, confidence, and strategy. Today's conversation is one that every business owner needs, whether you're ready for it or not. We're talking about money, moolah. Not just making it, but understanding it, managing it, and using it to actually build a profitable business. I'm joined by Emily Bowie, a CPA and cash flow strategist with over 15 years of experience, including time in Big Four accounting. She's part of Thorn Advisors, a firm that helps high-earning women entrepreneurs gain clarity around their finances, eliminate cash leaks, and build sustainable wealth. In this episode, we're breaking down why outsourcing your finances is not a luxury but a necessity, how understanding your cash flow can completely change your business, and what an X-Corp really is when it makes sense, and why so many women entrepreneurs are underpricing their services simply because they don't know their numbers. If you ever avoided your financials, guessed at your pricing, or felt unsure about where your money is actually going, this is a conversation for you. Let's listen in. All right. I'm so glad you're here with us today, Emily. So please, I did a very short introduction to you earlier. I would love for you to take this opportunity to share with the audience who you are and the value that you're about to bring us.
Sure. My name is Emily Bowie. I'm one of the partners at Thorn Advisors. Background, I was Big Four accounting, did audit, did all of those things. Eventually realized in order to have the life I wanted to have, I needed to get out of Big Four accounting. Gave me work ethic, gave me the work experience, but it was time to roll after a while. I started out actually in health and fitness and then shifted into back my technical training. I always said I wasn't ever going to really use my CPA again, and now here I am. It's a lot more complicated than that, but that's the gist of it. I am a mom of 3, 7, 5, and about to be 4. And so life is busy, crazy, but I wouldn't have it any other way. A lot of our passion is like being the primary parent while also building a business full of wealth and focused on legacy. So we're very passionate about not only doing that ourselves, but helping our clients do the same thing.
I love it. Being a mother of 3 as well, and being able to demonstrate that entrepreneurship, being able to own your own and create your own wealth is so important. And I love that. And I love how yours is surrounding numbers and finances. So you'll be able to bring that education in there as well. So it's wonderful.
It's very practical alongside understanding there's a human on the other side of it. And I don't know that both of those things always go hand in hand.
Yes. Because finances are always touchy. Not, even if you're a business owner or not, finances are always touchy. So being able to have a human to interact with when you're working through these stuff is very helpful.
Agreed.
Sorry, so let's start at the beginning. We're talking again, entrepreneurs. Most of my listeners are running their own business, and many entrepreneurs, they're trying to handle their own books for as long as possible to kind of save some money and some resources. So at what point does outsourcing bookkeeping and financial support stop being optional and become absolutely necessary?
Honestly, if I'm being super transparent, I think that's the first thing you outsource. And I think you do it before you're ready. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I think you do it before you're ready. And the reason being is that if you don't have good numbers, how do you make strategic decisions? And so often that business owner is not trained in how to build out their books to know if their profit and loss looks right, if their balance sheet looks right or not. So I always recommend outsourcing that first because 1, it can be tedious to do. 2, it gives you that leverage to make really strategic decisions. And 3, because at the end of the day, that is the value of your business. So if you do that well first, there's so many opportunities of what you can do with your business, whether it's getting loans, if it's selling your business, getting a proper valuation of your business. There's so many things. If you do that well first, you don't have to go back and do.
Yeah. I think so many people like myself, honestly, for the first few years of my business, my financial analysis, what I was doing was my bank account. Did I have money or not?
For sure.
Okay, great. I'm doing good. If it's not negative, I'm doing good.
Yes.
So go ahead.
I was going to say, and I think that is super normal. It's this like, as long as the check doesn't bounce, we're like making progress. And so I say it's really normal because I think we need to normalize our fear around money sometimes, whether it's spending it or not, or being afraid to never have enough. And because I think that's a lot of what the reason is like they're trying to keep margins low, but what they're not recognizing is your margins are going to stay stagnant if you don't get help in the areas you need so you can go do the thing you're supposed to do.
Yes. And I think too, it sounds like having an expert to be able to look at the numbers, even if the numbers aren't as pretty as you want them to be, just to be able to look at them and give you the data on what the numbers are saying.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's invaluable because here's the other part of it is when you hire somebody that is not in the day-to-day of your business, you just have somebody else's brain. But then imagine if they're looking at a bunch of other people's books and understanding a bunch of other people's businesses, they can bring that insight in that you just can't have on your own. And like, thank God for community, right? So that's kind of my insight on it.
Yes. I love it. I love that community. That's what I try to bring as well with my mastermind. It's that same aspect when we're talking about marketing, to be able to hear what other women are going through and struggling when it comes to marketing, and how, okay, they're going through the same issues I'm going through. I'm not alone. I can imagine it's the same thing where, oh yeah, this person over here is having that same similar issue. You're not alone. And here's how they solved it, whatever. Yes. I love it. Now, most of my listeners, they're female entrepreneurs. Most of my clients are female entrepreneurs, and they're all, kind of earning, they're getting some money, but they're still unclear about their money. So what are some of the biggest cash leaks that you see happening in businesses that look successful on the outside, but clearly not?
Yeah, I think so. Definitely pricing is usually the first thing we look at when we're doing an assessment of cash flow, because oftentimes people price based on direct labor, direct good that it needs to be used to do the thing, but they're not focused on the fact that it costs money to turn the light on every day. And if you don't have good books, you also won't know how much it costs to turn the light on every day. And then that kind of keeps you in that cycle of you're potentially selling something that's not profitable. And that is the reason you're not getting ahead or growing the way you think you should be, right? And so that's when that top line revenue looks real good. That bottom line net income is like, okay. And then there's no cash in the bank. And that's one of those things that will happen it happens to most people, right? Because they may consider it in the beginning, or they may not have even thought about it at all. And then they find themselves, backtracking and reassessing their pricing based on something like that. The other thing I think that happens to everybody is expenses that grow over time. And there's never this reassessment. Do I need that thing? And so what I do literally with all of my clients that I will do cash flow assessment with them is an expense audit. And we go through what is needed, what is not, what is the duplicate effort from an expense standpoint. But then also can you get a subscription for this? Or can you pay an annual fee versus the monthly? And find some savings there, because I think that is another most common when you've been in business for a long time. You just collect subscriptions, you collect things.
Yes. And this is having subscriptions for I ordered a Hootsuite, and I also have another scheduler tool that I found, and now I'm paying for that, and I forgot about it. And so now I'm paying for 2 different platforms.
For sure.
Yeah. Been there, done that.
Exactly. I mean, practically speaking, I would say you should do this ideally quarterly, depending how fast business is moving. If not, at least semi-annually, annually at the longest, because I think it accumulates pretty quickly, in my opinion.
Yeah. With the way platforms are added and new things come out, like, oh, I want to test this out. Let me try it. And then you forgot that it just improved on an old tool that you already have. And yeah. Oh, that's a very good tip. And one thing you mentioned when you're talking about pricing too, not considering overhead when you were pricing your services. For those of us that technically don't have a light switch to turn on. So like, for instance, for me, I'm running my business out of my own home. And so my overhead is really kind of light. I don't have a whole lot of overhead. So is it fair for me to underprice myself just because of the overhead? Should I be pricing myself as if so I can grow into the day that I have an office?
That's exactly it. I think it's having today's picture and tomorrow's picture. And so that's why, like, when we onboard somebody, we're talking about like today, 5 years, 10 years, retirement, that type of thing, because it helps us get that big, long view and also that short view of like what needs to happen now to set ourselves up for the next spot. So like with overhead, I think, first of all, it accumulates quickly. So I do think there's a lot of times where you don't know how much you really have. So doing those expense audits and all of that is super helpful. But also when you have really good books, you're able to say, here's all my expenses in relation to every dollar I bring in. So you can get that percentage and start tacking it on. In some people where they have higher overhead, it doesn't make sense to go 1-for-1 in the pricing piece of it. But for most people, if you're starting with very slim margins, if you start from the jump, adding in 5 to 10% onto your price to account for the growth, I think you kind of set yourself up to be able to continue to grow. And you take that like scarcity mindset out where it's like, I can only charge what, Joy down the hall charges. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I love it. It's excellent. That's excellent. Because that's definitely something I have to really encourage my clients to do is really consider their pricing, because undercharging is such a, I don't know, curse.
Well, and I also think it's perceived value, right? So if you offer something at a lower dollar, sometimes the person you are trying to attract will not be attracted to you because you don't have that zero on the end. And so you have to think about it for today, tomorrow, and also who you're trying to work with, because sometimes cheaper is not better.
Exactly.
Commitment and like skin in the game too is a thing.
Yes, totally. I wish more people would hear that. When I edit it, I'm going to repeat that twice.
Yeah. I love it.
So we talked a little bit about cash flow, taking a look at our expenses, taking a look at, different software that we have that we're doubling up on. What are other cash flow issues that we should be considering when somebody's looking at their numbers to help just increase that profitability?
So one common issue I've seen with entrepreneurs is like mixing business and personal too. And so when we're doing that expense audit, really making sure we're extracting all that personal elsewhere and starting real strong with having that clear line. So if you have an LLC, that can actually protect you. When you start kind of like blending that, that's when that protection kind of is non-existent anymore. But also it helps you with like the valuation of the business. So then you can also figure out who you want to hire and how you want to hire them next. So whether or not it is like building an internal team or a team of contractors, knowing where and what your actual financial landscape looks like is going to help you tremendously. Because what I have found is a lot of people will overcompensate their team to bring them in to keep them happy and not have like the related metrics to meet them so that they can be productive and highly utilized and all of that. So what I found is if you're already starting with a team, it is that compensation analysis that needs to happen to be like, are they generating the revenue they need to be generating if that's their role. And if they're an operations role, are they taking enough off of your plate so you can go generate the revenue? And I think it can be real sticky because it's a person thing alongside a financial thing. And so that is another area I will see that cash leak pretty consistently too.
That is so good. I know some of us don't have staff yet, but I think that is a good point to consider as we're building teams. Because even with some of our contractors and team members, still looking at that like a virtual assistant, looking at how much, yeah, they may be doing some tasks, but how much help are the tasks that they're doing really contributing to the success of the business and taking stuff off of your plate, giving you time back. If you're not really getting that much time back, maybe it's not a matter of getting rid of that virtual assistant. Maybe it's just giving them different tasks. And
yeah. Well, and I agree with you. I think there's so many layers of strategy that can happen where it's like, should I hire them as a 1099 or a W-2? Should I hire them with these performance metrics or these? Or is their compensation based on performance? Like those types of things, so that you operationally don't find yourself assessing, like, are they actually helping or not?
yeah,
Because it's already like built into their compensation that they will help or they won't get paid type of thing. And not to say they don't get paid anything, but they're not going to make the money they want to make without the performance associated with it. So I feel like a lot of these things can be very basic and fundamental, but they can build for you to grow and scale too.
yeah, that is so good. And I know you mentioned when we first talked about S Corp. So you mentioned like LLC, mixing expenses can start to mess things up. So tell me a little bit more about S Corp, what that is, how it's different from an LLC, and the protection that you're going to get.
So S Corp designation is actually just how you're taxed. So when you can still be an LLC taxed as an S Corp, and you can be an LLC taxed as a sole proprietorship. And so sole prop is like your normal taxation where it comes back onto your normal individual tax return. And that's like your most common way to get into business, right? But what happens there is you're paying all sides of the tax, and there becomes a point in time where you have enough net income. And if you're matching your cash monitoring alongside your net income, you find that it makes more sense to go to an S Corp designation. And that's around that 70 to 100K net income mark. Because at that point, juice is worth the squeeze, because there are additional requirements when you become an S Corp where you have to, get on payroll and you have to pay for those expenses. You start prepaying taxes via W-2, and you have to do a reasonable comp analysis. And like, you have to do a lot of these things. And sometimes I've seen people jump there too quickly and it's to their detriment, or I've seen them like lag and not do it because they just don't know the ins and outs of it. But then it's costing them like tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars by not doing.
And let us point of clarification so everybody's clear. When you say 70 to 100,000 in income, that's your income you're taking home for the business, or is that revenue the business made?
That is net income. So it is that revenue less expenses. So
Okay.
it is the money you're making when you make a sale, less all that cost of goods sold. So anything that's directly related to generating that money, as well as that overhead expense. So if you're looking in a financial statement, it's that top line minus all the other lines.
Yeah.
You're looking at that bottom line number.
Okay.
And that's going to give you what should be in your bank account. Those two don't always match.
Yep.
And most of the time they don't, because there's other factors. But that net income is going to be a good depiction of, from a tax perspective, when you need that like support to make that transition, because you'll be paying a lot more taxes on that than you need to. And then once you get that S Corp designation, you get all these levers from a tax strategy standpoint that you can pull that can get you additional savings too.
Awesome. Now, one thing you just mentioned, something that, okay, you mentioned bank accounts.
Yes.
I absolutely love, and I read and I implemented Profit First.
Mm-hmm.
So give me your thoughts on that. Is that something you recommend, or is it a little too much? Okay.
No. So there is this philosophy I have. If it's there, you're going to spend it, right? So the idea behind Profit First is designating locations for your money so you're not tempted to spend something and you've already pre-allocated how you're going to profit from the business. And I think it's a switch in mindset for most people. So I see a lot of benefit there. The other benefit I see is like sometimes when you're doing business online, PayPal will like put a freeze on your account. Or Stripe will not like that bank account anymore, and now you can't get your money. This allows you as an emergency option to continue your business because you have different pots of money elsewhere too.
Yes.
So there is a lot to it. Is there a lot of coordinated effort? Yes, because you're going from like one account to 5 accounts. But is there benefit if you want to kind of take a step back and not have to like meticulously manage your money? Absolutely. I feel like there's such a benefit there to have it move out. So you don't have to worry if you're going to spend it or not because it's not there to be spent. And it helps with prepay or like pre-saving for taxes, which most people struggle with. It helps with actually profiting from the business, which a lot of people struggle with. So it really does help as a tool. And I think there's a lot of benefit to it, even though it feels logistically like a nightmare sometimes. But if we're outsourcing our bookkeeping, we don't have to worry about it as much.
Yes, exactly. Okay, great. Now, if someone wants to start pricing more strategically, what do they actually need to do to look beyond their time in the package? Like we kind of touched on this earlier in terms of pricing. So I want to come back to it because I feel like this is going to be one of those conversations that I want to hit home with and kind of end with. I know we've talked a lot about it, so let's finish that up
For sure.
and make sure that people know, like, price yourself right.
And this is like, there's a couple of, I know strategically speaking, there's a way to price and then there's a way to get behind your price, right? So there's a couple things that I have found that build confidence. One of which is having solid numbers. So when you look at your financial statement, you'll have revenue, less cost of goods sold, less overhead, or it will say expenses, and then it will be a bunch of lines underneath, right? Well, you can run your financial statement for a percentage of sales. And so that expense line will say X number of percent of sales is available, right? That percentage indicates how much it costs you every time you earn $1, how much it costs you to turn the lights on every day. So that percentage can just be applied on top of your current price to be able to create additional margin. And it doesn't have to be one for one. So like say that number is like 35% and you're like, this would totally price me out of the market. Even adding 5% to that will help with creating that margin and make it more predictable. And I think that margin is where you can actually start paying yourself well. If you have a team, give bonuses. If you are trying to grow and scale, you can use that additional cash to like reinvest in the business. So there's a lot of reasons why you should do it and a lot more than why you shouldn't do it. And then the flip side of it too is strategically how to do this in a practical way. You can just add $5 at a time. You don't have to do that jump to like 25, 30, 100, whatever it is when you do the math. You can just say, look, the next customer, I'm going to just add $5. And then you build this confidence when it sells, like, oh, they'll pay that. there's perceived value there. And so then you can kind of do that in a very practical way for you to be able to get behind it as well. So it doesn't have to be this all or nothing, but knowing where you stand is super important in order for you to actually continue to grow and scale.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. So let's wrap this up. What is one thing you would recommend all the listeners do right now to get started in the right direction with their finances?
I think whether you are ready or not to outsource your bookkeeping, I would say the best next step, if you don't want to do that quite yet, is an expense audit. I think sitting down, even if it's just you, your bank account, a printer, and a highlighter, just going through and working through that to see like that is a very tangible, practical way to see the leaks in your business that you don't even realize are happening. And you then take that savings once you cancel that subscription and you stop paying for that thing, whatever, and then you use that money to go get that bookkeeper.
Yes. Yes.
So I'm going
Awesome.
to go back to the bookkeeper, but I'm also going
Yeah.
to give a practical way to go forth and do that, especially if you're feeling like,
Yeah.
how do I do it?
Okay. Now I know most of my listeners are in the DMV area, but are they able to work with you wherever you are? And if so, how can they connect with you?
Absolutely. So we are a full virtual accounting firm and advisory firm. So you can find us at thornadvisors.com. I myself, I'm in the DMV area as well. And my business partner is in California, which is a great addition to this because California has lots of rules and regulations that other states don't have. So having a tax professional that is out of there and knows the inner workings is super helpful. So if you are interested in working with us, whether it's from tax prep, tax strategy, or you need someone to come in and help you with your cash flow, you can reach out to us at thornadvisors.com.
Great. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming, spending time with us, sharing your expertise and wisdom. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. I truly, truly appreciate it.
Great. Thank you so much. Emily, thank you so much for breaking this down in such a clear and approachable way. I think this is one of those conversations that feel uncomfortable at first, but it's exactly what women need if they truly want to lead their businesses like a CEO. For those of you listening, this is your reminder that guessing in your numbers is not a strategy. Avoiding your finances is not a strategy. Clarity is. And when you understand your cash flow, your pricing, and your tax strategy, you don't just run a business. You build something that's profitable, sustainable, and aligned with the life you actually want. As always, ladies, stay rooted in clarity, build with intention, and lead like the CEOs that you are becoming. And I will see you next week for our next episode.